Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man's Court channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my second Midnight Terrors video for you guys, and this was titled Six Disturbing True Road Trip Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera back up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction run in the back, shall we? Okay, here we go.
A few years back, my sister decided to throw a surprise 30th birthday party for her husband.
Okay.
She went all out with the planning, too. Since he'd never been to his high school prom, she made that the theme of the party, and even booked the same venue his original prom was held in.
Oh, that's one dedicated wife right there. Never went to his prom, and she decided to make his birthday themed around that event, and at the same location it was held. That's very sweet. But let's just see what happens along the way, shall we?
Sweet gesture, right? Only problem was, that venue happened to be in this tiny rural town in Missouri, basically out in the middle of nowhere. You had to get off the highway and drive about 5 miles down these narrow, winding back roads through thick woods just to get there. And to make things a little sketchier, that area has a major heroin problem. Like, not just use, but dealing too. Still, my sister was determined to do it there.
You know, I don't know why folks would want to build some sort of venue off back country roads, and it's known for people doing drugs and illegal shady stuff back there. That's ridiculous. I would have had top-notch security going around the place just to, warn people who do that stuff to get away, or they were going to call the cops, arrest them, just so that place can seem more safer for the locals to go to.
And we all wanted to support her. The plan was for me to head up early with her and a few friends to help set everything up. She was super pregnant at the time and definitely needed the help. But of course, I got called into work last minute and couldn't get off until 4. So I told her I'd drive up by myself as soon as my shift ended. She warned me the roads out there could get confusing, especially after dark. But I figured I'd just use Google Maps and be fine. And honestly, the drive was fine. It was late September. The air had that crisp autumn feel, and the woods were actually kind of beautiful in a sleepy Midwest kind of way. I made it to the hall with no issues, helped with some last-minute decorations, and the party turned out great. My brother-in-law was genuinely surprised, and everyone had a good time. The place shut down around 11, but I stuck around to help my sister and her friend stack chairs and clean up a bit. Her husband had definitely enjoyed the open bar, so one of his buddies ended up driving him home. We finally wrapped everything up close to midnight. I was exhausted, but ready to make the drive home. My sister reminded me again to be careful on those back roads, but I felt confident. I'd gotten there okay, and now I was heading home. What could go wrong? Well, I found out the hard way. As I was making my way back toward the highway, I must have taken a wrong turn at the very end. Instead of merging onto the main road, I accidentally veered onto this different back road that ran parallel to the highway. Still narrow, still wooded, and completely dark. I realized the mistake pretty quick, and figured I'd just pull into a gravel turnout or driveway to turn around.
Yeah, that's what I would do if I get lost on the road. Just turn around and go back the way I came in, just to get back on the highway. But yeah, I'll be so confused if there weren't no signs telling me which way to go. Oh man, my nerves are already jumping just to hear what they say either jumps out in front of them or follows them in the back. I don't want to jump at any conclusions just yet, so let's just continue on with the story and see what happens, shall we?
A couple hundred yards in, I spotted a gravel patch just off the road. Looked like a little embankment, maybe where someone parked occasionally or turned around like I was doing. So I pulled in, made a sharp U-turn, and as I was lifting my head to check behind me, I saw it in my driver's side mirror. A figure, standing just barely behind my car. It was wearing jeans and a dark blue t-shirt, with long, stringy black hair, and the whitest face I've ever seen. At first, it looked like a ghost, but then I realized it was wearing one of those cheap plastic Halloween masks, the kind with the blank expression and the soulless eyes you find in the seasonal aisle at a discount store. I froze. My heart jumped into my throat, and for a split second, I thought maybe it was just some Halloween decoration someone put out as a prank. It was almost October after all. Maybe the gravel patch led to someone's yard, and they had a scarecrow or prop out there.
You know, I'll be thinking that too. If you see like a mailbox leading towards a private property, then yeah, I would suspect them to put some sort of Halloween decoration near the front. But if it's out in the middle of nowhere and nobody's known to be living in that specific area that this person's driving on, then I'll be wondering why would they put something like that out in the middle of nowhere. But no, it's probably a deranged psycho wearing a scary looking Halloween mask just to scare the crap out of people who drives on that road, or possibly try to run up to their car and break in to kill them, you know. But woo, yeah, that would be scary to see for sure.
But then I really looked. There was nothing back there. Just trees, tall grass, and woods. And that's when it moved. I slammed on the gas. Gravel spun out behind me as I tore back onto the road and sped toward the main highway. I didn't slow down once. I don't even think I took a breath until I saw the city limits sign half an hour later. Looking back, I probably wasn't in any real danger. I was in a car, doors locked, and worst case scenario, I could have hit the gas and mowed down whoever or whatever that was if they got too close. But still, it wasn't the logic of the situation that scared me. It was the feeling. That moment where I thought I was alone and suddenly realized I wasn't. That realization that someone, or something, was just standing there, in the middle of nowhere, watching me. To this day, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was a local messing around. Maybe someone high out of their mind looking to scare motorists. But either way, I still avoid rural roads at night if I can help it.
Man, I'm just glad that guy did not decide to run out into the road and try to jump on your car. Because then you wouldn't know what he was going to be doing. I figure he probably might end up doing that, but once you saw him and you took off, his plan was terminated, basically. But who knows what he was going to do. But this is why you need to be looking out while you're driving on back roads, because you never know who will be out there either going to play a stupid, scary prank or luring you to a trap to kill you or rob you. You always got to keep an eye out. But I ain't lying, that just sent a few shivers down my spine. Ooh. But anyway, let's get to story number 2, shall we?
When I was about 16, I used to make this regular 2-hour drive from the city to my parents' house in the countryside. Because of my situation back then, I had to do it at least twice a month. Most of that drive, like an hour and a half of it, was nothing but empty country road. I'm talking miles of cornfields, valleys, the occasional lonely farmhouse, and long stretches where you wouldn't see another soul. No cell service, no gas stations, no phone booths. Just you, the road, and whatever might be hiding in the dark. I had done this drive so many times by then that I'd stopped thinking anything bad could ever happen. It was always quiet, always uneventful. That stretch of road started to feel boring, not dangerous. Until one night proved me completely wrong. So I was driving back to my parents' place just as the sun was setting, and the sky was shifting into that deep blue you get before total darkness. I was zoning out, just watching the road, when out of nowhere, I saw a flash of light. It was weird, but I figured maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks on me.
You would think that, but if you're out in the middle of nowhere, might want to make sure that if it ain't no person shine a flashlight for an emergency purpose. And I doubt it would be like a police officer tailing you with the lights on if they just said a flash of light. So that would be kind of weird to experience while driving for sure. But at this point, you need to stay alert so you can figure out who or what caused that flashlight to go off.
Then came another flash. At that point, I thought, okay, maybe someone's driving toward me with busted high beams. But then a third flash hit, and I realized something was off. I slowed down a bit, trying not to get blinded or distracted. As I got closer to the source of the light, I thought I saw people up ahead. At first, I couldn't make out much, but the shapes started becoming clearer the closer I got. It was 4 people, standing directly in the road, side by side, blocking both lanes. No cars nearby, no houses, no visible place they could have walked out from. Just a human roadblock in the middle of absolute nowhere. My headlights finally lit them up enough to see them clearly. They were all wearing these bright white masks, completely expressionless, and just staring at me. 2 of them were holding what looked like baseball bats. Another was holding something that kept flashing, probably a flashlight, or maybe even a phone.
See, what I tell you? A flashlight. But not for emergency purposes. It was just probably to signal their buddies to let them know that there was a car coming. And it seems like they were planning on running up to the car and force their way in to steal whatever you got valuable wise and maybe kidnap you and take the car. You see a group of guys wearing strange, scary masks, don't stop. Just hit the pedal to the metal and go right past them. And watch out for any spike traps. Man, I'll be at a point where I'll be dialing 911 right about now.
I was creeping along at maybe 10 miles per hour now, heart pounding in my chest, and doing the mental math of what my options were. Do I slow down and risk getting surrounded? Or do I floor it and hope they get out of the way?
Don't slow down. Just hit the pedal to the metal and go.
I chose the second option. I had no weapon in the front seat, just a bat in my trunk. I was a teenager, not exactly built to fight off one person, let alone 4. And the car I was driving? Total junk. I knew if I stopped, they could probably break in with one good hit. So I pressed down on the gas. I was freaking out, more afraid of swerving off the road than actually hitting someone. But I was committed. And just before impact, the 2 people directly in my path jumped out of the way. I didn't stop driving. I didn't even let off the gas until I was well past them. I caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror. The other 2? They actually started running after my car for a few seconds, as if they thought they could catch me. That's when it really hit me. These weren't kids pulling a dumb prank. These were adults. And whatever they had planned, it wasn't a joke. I didn't turn on music. I didn't stop for a breath. I just kept driving and praying my tires held up. And that's the part that gets me the most, even now. When I finally got home and looked at my tires, I realized part of the road I'd driven over wasn't just gravel. It was nails. Nails, scattered across the road, on purpose. My tires were solid enough to get me through it, and to this day, I still thank whatever higher power, or dumb luck, kept them from blowing out. If they had, I don't even want to think about what might have happened if I'd been forced to stop in that spot. I never told my parents the full story. They just thought I was being reckless and someone had dumped nails on the road as a prank. I told a few friends, but most of them brushed it off like it was just a scare tactic. You were in a car, they said. You had the upper hand. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere and 4 masked strangers block your path with bats and flashing lights, it doesn't matter if you're in a car or a tank. You feel vulnerable. You feel hunted. I still have nightmares about it sometimes. And what really eats at me is I never figured out where they came from. I've driven that same road in daylight dozens of times since. No buildings, no paths, no driveways.
You see, I told you they had something to try to pop your tires, but luckily, someone of higher power or luck spared the tires from blowing up and got home safe and sound before they popped off the rim altogether. He could have stopped and got his bat out to fight him, but then they probably been a lot stronger to take him down. It don't matter what size of the danger is, even if you're in a tank, the best motive is always just to move and get out of there quick before the danger follows you.
Back when I was in college, my roommates and I decided to take a road trip for spring break. It was me, another girl, and two guys. We were heading from Texas to Boulder, Colorado. It's a long drive, like 18 hours, and to save time, we agreed to drive in shifts straight through the night. We were somewhere in the Texas Panhandle when it was my turn to drive. It was early morning, still pitch black outside, and we hadn't seen another car for what felt like hours. Just endless flat land, the kind where there's nothing around for miles. No gas stations, no towns, no houses. Just you and the road. I was cruising along when suddenly, I noticed headlights in the rearview mirror. At first it wasn't a big deal, but this car came up fast, then backed off. Then it did it again. It would get really close to our bumper, then hang way back, then rush up again, over and over. This went on for a while. We were all starting to get uneasy in the car, nervously joking about it being a deliverance type of situation.
I wouldn't be joking about it. I'd be pulling out the phone and calling the cops and saying that there's somebody tailing us near the bumper, and then they back away. Because you never know if that person was just intentionally following you to try to bump up with you and knock you off the road. But man, whatever they got up their sleeves, they need to do it quick before they find out these people want.
Middle of nowhere. Weird behavior. Not a great vibe. Then suddenly, red and blue lights flicked on behind us. None of us had realized it was a cop following us. The light bar must have been mounted low, or maybe it just blended into the darkness. Either way, I wasn't speeding. I hadn't done anything wrong. But I still pulled over to the shoulder. The cop walks up to the window wearing a full-on cowboy hat. Total Texas Ranger look. He shines his flashlight into the car, looks at everyone, then tells me to step out of the car. Now, there were 3 other people with me, so I didn't feel completely unsafe, just confused. But I still grabbed my wallet and got out. I stood by the driver's door as he checked my license and insurance. Then out of nowhere, he says he's going to do a sobriety test. It's like, seriously? I hadn't had a single drink. I wasn't swerving. It was 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere, and he wanted me to walk in a straight line. Whatever. I figured I'd just do it and get it over with. He had me walk a straight line that ended right next to his patrol car. When I finished, he casually opened the back door of the squad car and told me to get in. Just like that. I froze. Like, what? I asked, why? And he just said, sit in the car while I look up your license. Now, I might have been a college kid, but I wasn't stupid. I knew those back doors only opened from the outside. If I got in and he shut the door.
Okay, here I was thinking it was somebody else just tailing them to either scare the crap out of them or hurt them in some way. But nope, it turned out to be a Texas Ranger. Just so he could pull somebody over just to do a sobriety test and they won't even drink it. But then he wants you to sit in the back seat of his car. No. Red flags are going off. He probably wants to kidnap you.
And he shut the door. I'd be stuck. And this wasn't some well-lit city street or a populated highway. This was the middle of rural Texas, completely isolated. No one would hear you scream out here. So I said, I'm sorry, sir. With all due respect, for my own safety, I'd rather not get in your car. That's when his whole vibe changed. He barked at me. What did you just say? I repeated myself, calmly, respectfully. I'm not trying to be difficult. but I don't feel comfortable getting in the back of your car. If you need backup, you can call another officer." He did not like that. He started threatening me, saying he could arrest me for refusing a lawful order, that he could detain all of us, that we'd spend the night in jail. But I held my ground. I kept repeating that I didn't feel safe getting into the vehicle and asked him to call for another unit. Then, he leaned in close and gave me this really weird look and asked, "What? Are you afraid of being kidnapped?" That was the moment my blood ran cold. Because, who says that? That's not a normal thing for a cop to say. That's not something you joke about when you're pulling over a woman alone in the dark. I looked back at the car. My friends were all pressed up against the windows, watching everything. The two guys looked like they were ready to jump out and intervene. The cop looked over at them too, and I honestly don't know what he was thinking in that moment. But something changed in his face. He suddenly smiled. This smug, creepy smile. Tipped his hat like this was some Wild West encounter. Handed me back my ID and insurance. And then without another word, he got in his car and drove off. I was shaking so bad I could barely walk back to my car. My friends had to help me into the back seat. I don't even remember if he gave me a ticket or not. I just broke down crying the second I was out of sight. To this day, I have no idea what he wanted from me. Maybe it was power. Maybe it was something worse. But I think about it often. How different things might have gone if I'd just followed his order. If I'd gotten into the back of that car, out of view, alone, with no one to help. He was never held accountable. I never reported it because I didn't even know where we were exactly. And who would believe it? But I know what happened. I know what I felt. And I know how real the fear was.
Man, I don't care what people will say. I will still get his ID and badge number and what number car he was driving. I'll report his butt to the other Texas Rangers or other authorities to tell him that he's abusing his power just to pull over nice women thinking that he could take them. Because then I know they'll pull him aside and do an internal affairs investigation. If they find him guilty, have him fired and tell him to remove his uniform and badge and take him to court about that. Because that is wrong, thinking that he's over everybody else and he could do whatever he want to get away with what he does in uniform. That ain't how it works. But man, if he was wearing a body camera, oh man, I know he would have been busted for sure. I hope somebody does dig into this and see if they can get that guy arrested and taken away from being a Texas Ranger, because nobody like that needs to be on the roads, pull the people random just to check their IDs or try to get them in the back seat of their car, you know. But he must have saw the two boys in there and figured, oh man, if he does something, they're going to jump and get him.
A couple years ago, my husband and I took a trip to Yosemite. We were staying in a small town right outside the park called El Portal. One night, we were driving back from the valley. It was late. The roads were pitch black, and we were completely surrounded by trees and steep drop-offs. As we were winding along the road back to our hotel, our headlights swept over what looked like someone lying on the shoulder, right near the edge of the pavement. Both feet pointed straight toward the road. I immediately said, "Did you see that? I swear that was a person laying down on the side of the road." My husband didn't even slow down. He glanced in the rearview mirror and just said, "Nah, I think that was just some trash bags. Probably road debris." I'm a bit of a true crime junkie, so I get it. He thought I was overreacting. But I was so sure. I kept saying, "No, I know what I saw. That was a person, just laying there in the dark." We made it back to the hotel and were about to park when my husband finally looked at me and said, "You're really not letting this go, huh? You want to go back?" I practically yelled, "Yes, please." So we turned around and drove back the same way we came. As we got closer, I scanned the roadside. And sure enough, there they were. 2 feet, just barely sticking out into the light from the shoulder. I pointed and said, "There, stop the car." We pulled over, and my husband rolled the window down. He called out, "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. He tried again, louder this time. "Are you okay?" That's when the person suddenly sat up. It was a woman, dressed all in black. She had on a down jacket, black pants, her makeup was done, and she was holding a purse and a few water bottles. She didn't look homeless. Honestly, she looked like she could have been somebody's mom on vacation. She was soft-spoken and polite.
Glad that this guy's wife has a nice person conscience, but that seems like a big setup for me. Because if she ain't looking homeless and she got like a lot of makeup and a nice black coat, then something ain't right. Unless her lover ditched her out there. Who knows? But I don't want to jump ahead with any conclusions just yet, so let's just continue on and see what happens, shall we?
I asked where she was headed, and she said she was trying to walk to the Chevron station up the road, where her mom was supposed to meet her. That station was 7 miles away. She told us she thought it was only about a mile from her hotel, and that she could just walk it. But it was winter, freezing cold, and she didn't have gloves or a hat. Nothing. I could tell she was exhausted, and something just felt off. We offered her a ride. She accepted and climbed into the back seat. Before she did, I discreetly wrapped a thick scarf around my neck and had my pepper spray in hand. I didn't know her, and my gut was still on high alert. As we drove, we tried to make conversation. She said she got tired while walking and had just decided to lay down. Said she was ready to give up. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I had a terrible feeling in my chest. When we finally reached the Chevron station, the place was closed. She thanked us and said she'd wait there for her mom. I reminded her there was no cell service out there and asked again if she was sure she didn't want us to stay. She insisted she'd be fine. We drove back to the hotel, and that's when we noticed something strange. 2 police cars were now in the parking lot. They hadn't been there earlier when we first got back from the valley. I had a sinking feeling. I told my husband, "They're here for her. I know it." So I walked up to one of the officers and asked, "Are you looking for a missing woman?" He said they were, and asked if I'd seen her. I explained the whole thing, where we found her, what she said, where we dropped her off. The officer thanked me and said that giving her a ride may have been the smartest decision we could have made. He couldn't give me too many details, but he said she had good reason to leave the hotel. I asked if he'd check on her at the gas station, just to make sure her mom actually showed up. He said he would. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her, why she had to escape like that, in the middle of the night, dressed in all black, walking through the cold with no flashlight. Later, I looked up the local police log. There had been a domestic violence call at our hotel. A woman had been attacked. Badly. The report didn't list names, but I knew it was her. Apparently, after she was assaulted, she ran to the front desk to call her mom. But before the police arrived, she left because she knew her attacker would come looking. The front desk staff called the cops for her while she escaped. She must have walked a half mile or more before she just couldn't keep going. She was hurt, scared, and I think she was just waiting there, laying down, thinking she might actually die on the side of that road. Her husband, the man who hurt her, was arrested that night. But I still think about her all the time. Did her mom actually make it? Did she go back to him? Is she safe now? I'll probably never know.
I knew it had to be something with the husband. Start an argument and then they start fighting. And she didn't want to be with him no more. But thank God they did go back and pick her up because I thought it was going to be a whole stinking trap. But no, it seemed like a woman who's trying to get away from an abusive spouse, and she figured she wasn't going to make it, and she might as well just die right there on the road. I'm glad she also told the police about what they did, and they congratulate her for it. Hopefully she is all right, and living the best life possible now. Hopefully with a different husband. Because I wouldn't go back with no crazy spouse like him if there's always fighting and arguing. And as for her husband, he better get anger counseling and ask for forgiveness for what he did. Because that is just not right at all. You put a hand on a woman, you're not a man at all. That's all I gotta say.
This story happened back when I was still what you'd call a munchkin. Definitely under 12. You'll have to excuse any sarcasm. I tend to make jokes when stuff creeps me out. It's a defense mechanism that stuck with me since I was little. Anyway, when I was still knee-high to a frog, my grandmother, I'll call her Tilly, and I used to take yearly road trips, either across our home country or the neighboring one, since we lived relatively close to the border. Gram loved long drives, and I loved tagging along, bladder problems and all. On this particular trip, we were headed into the more yeehaw side of Country B, so she could visit an old friend. I didn't know the details. I just knew I was going on an adventure, and that was enough to keep me bouncing off the car walls for weeks beforehand. So we set off, snacks in hand and music on low, and spent the week meandering through scenic backroads and dusty towns. Lots of pit stops, since traveling with me meant making peace with my goldfish-sized bladder. But it was the last pit stop of the trip that made this whole experience unforgettable, in the worst kind of way. We were nearing the end of our journey when we pulled into this rundown gas station somewhere in the middle of rural nowhere. We were running on fumes, and I was doing that very specific kid in crisis bathroom dance in the front seat. As soon as we stepped into that gas station, my tiny internal alarm system went haywire. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. It just felt wrong. Then I saw the clerk behind the counter. This man looked like he was auditioning for every crime documentary ever made. Like if the last person you'd want to see in a dark alley had a mascot. He was way too polished, wearing clean, expensive-looking clothes, slicked back hair, like he belonged at a fancy car dealership, not in a dusty shack selling expired beef jerky. The worst part was that his smile was already uncomfortably wide when he saw my grandmother. She was petite, blonde, and aged like fine wine. But when his eyes landed on me, that smile grew, like he was looking at a buffet plate and deciding what to eat first.
Oh, heck no. A twisted-minded maniac who wants to molest either the grandmother or the granddaughter, which I hate to even say, because that would be wrong and twisted. But this is already sounding like a creepy road trip already.
It was subtle, but my skin crawled. Thankfully, my grandmother has excellent stranger danger radar. She stepped in between us, blocking his view, and asked for the bathroom key. He took his sweet time handing it over, dragging out every second. She didn't let me out of her sight as I ran into the disgusting restroom and back. I handed her the key like it was cursed, and we made a beeline for the car. That should have been the end of it. But nope. As we got back into the car, I noticed the man closing down the shop and walking out to his car. Kinda weird. But maybe it was just his shift ending? Or maybe he just coincidentally had somewhere to be?
I would pick neither, because he's shutting down just so he could get in his car to follow you guys. Almost like he ain't done with you yet. He wants to follow you to see where you guys go.
That was our first mistake, writing it off as a coincidence. My grandma got back on the road, and at first it didn't seem like anything was wrong. It was just one main road, so it made sense that another car might be heading the same way. But then we took a turn, and then another, and every time that same car was right behind us. After the third or fourth detour, my grandmother looked at me and said, "He's still back there, isn't he?" He was. That man followed us for the entire rest of the trip. Not an hour, not two. 12 solid hours of driving. Through towns, turnoffs, long stretches of highway. He stayed just far enough behind to avoid suspicion from anyone else, but close enough that we knew it was no coincidence. We didn't have a cell phone with us, This was a time before everyone had one in their pocket. And even if we did, service in those back roads was basically non existent. My grandma was terrified. I could see it in how tightly she gripped the wheel. But she was calm, focused. She said she didn't want to stop anywhere unfamiliar, didn't want to risk getting stranded. She just kept driving, only stopping once when she absolutely had to. And that man stayed right on our tail. Finally, we made it to the city where her friend lived, and as soon as we reached town limits, my grandma pulled into the parking lot of a police station. I still remember how relieved I felt the second we stopped. But old boy? Oh no, he wasn't done. He pulled in right next to us, like it was just another casual stop. Sat there, staring, smiling that same creepy-ass smile. Grandmother grabbed my hand, and we rushed inside. She talked to a woman at the front desk, explained everything in a calm but urgent voice. And the whole time, through the glass, I could still see him, just sitting in his car, watching. The cops handled it quickly. I don't know what they said to him, but they approached his car, asked him to step out, and eventually escorted him away. And I swear to you, even as they were leading him off, that smile never left his face. We never took another road trip to Country B again.
To be honest with you, why would he be stupid enough to even park right there in the police station while she went inside? I thought some criminals would just get their car in gear and go before somebody of authority came out to question him. But it seems like this person did not have nothing to lose, and he just wanted to keep on staring at him. But man, I feel the same way if I went on a road trip and somebody kept following me. I don't know if I want to go on another one again. Especially hearing something like this. But knock on wood, we haven't had no bad encounters like that, so hopefully it'll stay like that for a long time. But I'm just glad that they were able to get away from this dude altogether.
This happened just about a week ago. I decided to take my friend Traves back home to Colorado on a long road trip. He originally planned to fly, but I really wanted the experience. Just me, the highway, and a sense of freedom. I live in Ohio, so the route took us through Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas. 22 hours of solid driving, not including breaks. For context, I'd never done a trip like this before, at least not in a car. I'd flown down to Florida a couple times, sure, but something about the open road called to me, and I didn't know when I'd get the chance again. So I volunteered to drive most of the way. Honestly, no one objected. I love being behind the wheel, and Traves said he'd swap out if I needed to tap out. Around the 12-hour mark, I still felt wired, focused, but probably more tired than I realized. And that's when things got unsettling. We needed gas. It was sometime after midnight when I pulled into this really dimly lit gas station somewhere in the middle of Kansas. The kind of place that's barely clinging to life, with one sad little street light and a flickering neon pump light. The store was closed. No one inside. Just me, the pump, and what felt like miles of emptiness in every direction. Still, nothing seemed off enough to set off alarms, just creepy in that too quiet kind of way. This gas station wasn't like what I was used to. You had to lift a lever after inserting the nozzle to start pumping. It took me a second to figure it out, mostly from watching old movies with outdated stations. Right as I finally got it going, I heard a voice. A man's voice. It came from somewhere near the side of the building, in the shadows. I couldn't make out what he said exactly, probably something like, "Hey," or "over here." But it was enough to make me glance up and scan the area. No one. Nothing. The place looked empty. Maybe I imagined it. I was tired after all, and with my friends passed out in the car, Traves reclined in the front and my roommate knocked out in the back. It was easy to feel completely alone. Still, I brushed it off. I figured maybe my mind was playing tricks, or maybe some random guy just said something and left. I kept my eyes on my phone, half watching the gas meter tick up. Then I heard it again. This time, the same voice whistled at me. like I was a dog. That's when something in my body snapped. Not panic, not shock, something worse. It was a feeling I don't think I'd ever had before, like pure dread. Like every instinct in me screamed, do not turn around. But I did, and I saw him. A man was standing just a few yards away, stepping out from the shadows. He had the hood of a brown coat pulled up over his head, red shorts. I don't even know why I remember that detail, but I do. As I looked at him, he yelled, loud and angry, "Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you." The force of his voice was so sudden that it jolted my roommate awake. She sat up fast, rolled down the window, and called out, "You good?" The guy had been walking straight toward me, fast. But the second she made her presence known, like flipping a switch, he stopped, turned, and bolted back behind the building. I heard a car start, tires skid, gravel scatter. He was gone just like that. I didn't move. I was frozen, stuck. Like every survival plan I thought I had was locked behind a door I didn't know how to open. I didn't even look at what kind of vehicle he drove. I just stood there, gripping the pump handle like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My roommate must have sensed it too, because she didn't say much, just waited until I finished filling the tank, then gently said she'd take over driving for a while. I still don't know what that guy wanted.
Thank God her roommate was with her, because if that guy was able to talk to her and walked up right behind her to grab her, she would have been long gone. He probably was either planning on trying to rob her and kidnap her in his car, or just rob her there at the gas station and take off. I would have still called the cops in on a non-emergency line because the guy didn't literally do anything, but I would still report him and see if they could find him. If you got the description of the car and license plate down, of course. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Midnight Terrorist content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day.